But we begin with what it takes to be the world's best, whether you're a paraplegic or even a quadriplegic.
Such a strange situation, stopping every 100 miles, calling Baton Rouge.
Stéphane Houdet of France is #1 in the world. Jourdain Wiley of the United Kingdom, #4. David Wagner from here in the U.S. is #2. They're the best athletes you've probably never heard of until now.
To us, what we're doing is normal and natural, and it may inspire or motivate somebody to go try tennis or try a sport or try something, and that's awesome. But that's not the main focus of what we're doing. We're just doing what everyday person would want to do with their life.
David and 120 other players are competing in the 27th Cajun Classic Wheelchair Tennis Tournament at the Manship YMCA. The majority are paraplegic, paralyzed from the waist down, but about 30% are quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck, or in David's case, mid-chest down.
I've got real limited function in my hands, so I can't open my hands all the way. Either hand doesn't open all the way, and I can't really close them all the way, so my grip is real limited. So I have to use an athletic tape to hold the racket to my hand, so I tape the racket to my hand. And then I'm paralyzed from about mid-chest all the way down to my toes. So I can't move any part of my stomach muscles, my back muscles.
Nonetheless, on the court, he moves like a champion. His first pro tournament was 15 years ago, right here in Baton Rouge. He's gone on to become the most successful quad singles player this century. He's a 3-time gold medalist in the Paralympic Games in Athens, Beijing, and London. He holds 15 Grand Slam titles, 5 of those at the U.S. Open. He has big-name sponsors like Nike and Head. And yet, he's played in every Cajun Classic since his first. The U.S. Tennis Association's Emily Sanders says all the top players want to play in Baton Rouge.
Really one of the best ITF tournaments in the world, honestly. We love the Cajun Classic.
Everything here is a labor of love.
It takes a lot of hard work. I mean, you have to, like I said earlier, you dedicate your life to something that you love. And it doesn't feel like work, but it is work, you know. I mean, I'm really fortunate to call a tennis court my office.
He never envisioned such an office as a college student, even though he did walk onto the tennis team after his freshman year and got a scholarship. But a year and a half later, he suffered a terrible accident. While at the beach with friends, an ocean wave crashed his world.
And we were just throwing a frisbee out in the water, and as I jumped over to retrieve the frisbee, the wave hit my leg, and it jackknifed my body and just slammed my head right into the ocean floor, and I snapped my neck, and instantly became paralyzed.
He'd never been so helpless. Did you ever have a pity party for yourself?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you know, it's not all roses, you know, by any means. You know, you're relearning how to do things you already knew how to do. But it wasn't like I never turned to like heavy drinking or drugs or anything like that to solve the problem. I just had really good family and friend support, and so I could use them as my crutch, so to speak, you know, or my chair, so to speak, to like help me deal with the loss of my ability to becoming disabled.
4 years later, his girlfriend got him back on the tennis court.
I know how to hold the racket kept falling out of my hand, and I was like, there is no way a quadriplegic plays wheelchair tennis. No possible way.
But he gave it one more try at a wheelchair tennis camp, led fortunately by 3 of the pioneers in the sport.
You know, then I decided, well, this looks like a really fun thing to do, so I'm going to go and push forward. And I finished school in 2000. I graduated with an elementary education degree. And then I had to choose, do I go play professional wheelchair tennis or do I become a teacher? And I chose tennis, and I haven't looked back since.
With a great tennis brain, technique, and a competitive nature, Dave skyrocketed to tennis's upper tier.
It probably was at least 2 or 3 years before I got a first top 10 win over somebody. And once I did, then the itch and the bug just became even more, right? It's like, man, I can't not do this because it's so much fun. So, you know, I think within 3 years, I got into the top 3 in the world.
It looks like he'll make it back to the Paralympic Games this fall in Rio, and he could very well win his 4th gold medal. And even though he's 42, he has no plans of slowing down.
But I love training, and I love just being the best that I can personally be. So as long as I can continue to do that, I'm going to continue to play. So you love what you do, and so you devote your life to it. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's tennis, golfing, sport, dancing, drama. It doesn't matter what it is. You spend your life doing it, and if you love it, it'll show.
Dave has shown younger players they can do it too, like 15-year-old Connor Stroud, who doctors said at birth would never walk. He has PFFD.
And that stands for proximal focal femur deficiency. So I was born without a femur.
He also doesn't have hip joints or kneecaps. But when he was 2, his mom Rita says they opted for a new surgery that would give him a small chance of walking one day.
When he had surgery, they did an amputation on the front part of his feet, and so he actually balances on his little heels, and so that makes a lot better base for him to walk with his blades. You know, he has the blades now, and you know, it works better, but still there's no hip joint there, so it's very difficult for him to walk.
Connor wanted not only to walk, but play tennis.
I started playing about 5 or 6 because my parents owned a tennis club, so I started playing pretty young.
Connor wasn't playing in a wheelchair back then, he was standing. Quickly, he wanted to compete.
My husband played tournaments, and he always wanted to play. We would hit, and I would say, "No, Connor, that's going to be really hard." And so his first tournament, he kept wanting to do a tournament, and I wouldn't let him.
So Connor signed himself up online.
So I said, "Okay, you can go, and I'll let him see how hard it is." Well, he won, so he was hooked.
Well, I played tournaments when I was like 8 and 10 and 12. And then when I turned 13, which was like, 2 years ago, I had to move up to the 14 division, and that's when, people could place the ball really good. So I thought that I could try wheelchair tennis, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it.
When we went to the first clinic, a Paralympian, Karen Korb, was doing the clinic, and I knew he was a good little player, and he went out on the court and he was hitting, and she was like, oh, she was just going crazy. She said he's gonna be playing at the World Cup, and I thought, this lady is crazy.
He shot right to the top. Connor is the #1 junior wheelchair tennis player in the U.S. He's one of the top 10 in the world, and last summer, he made the World Cup team. He is seeing the world.
I've been to Turkey, Mexico, Netherlands, Ireland, and then I'm planning to go to Canada. We get to go to Tokyo in May.
Oh, you have so much to look forward to, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how you have time for school. It's wheels up for all these world-class tennis players and the sport itself.